computers, mainframe computers, server computers, high-end workstations, personal computers, smartphones and tablets, and embedded systems. These are the topics which we are going to cover. Now the first one is supercomputer. The largest and the most powerful computers ever built are known as supercomputers. These are the computers that can perform millions of billions of floating point, that is real number operations per second. For example, in November 2011, the K supercomputer of Japan, which you can see in the figure, became the first supercomputer in the world which was able to perform 10 petaflops, that is 10⁻16 floating point operation per second. India is one of the few countries in the world to have developed our own supercomputers. Such supercomputers are used on some of the most complex and computation intensive programs in the world, like weather forecasting, nuclear test simulation, molecular modeling. These are just to name few, but it is used for a variety of complex tasks. These computers are vastly different from the common variety personal computers which we use. These computers utilize the power of thousands of processors connected using very high speed channels and working on a single problem in a parallel to achieve very high speed. The most critical aspects of an operating system of a supercomputer are performance optimization as well as distribution and coordination of both data and computation among the thousands of processors. Now this topic I had already covered in one of the chapter before also, I think history and evolution of computer. Fine, now in this chapter we have to cover two things, the different categories of computers and operating systems used for them. So now we will see the operating systems which are used for supercomputer. Then the operating systems typically used are variants of lightweight kernels like CNK or CNL at individual node level, while using a Linux variant for managing the overall operations. Hope you have understood what is an supercomputer. Now we come to the next topic, and that is mainframe computer. Now the next class of computer is called mainframe computer. You can see in the figure here. These are used in government and corporate environments where, apart from the high performance, a high level of reliability and compatibility with existing mainframe based software are the key aspects. The very high level of reliability and availability are achieved by providing multiple redundant components for almost every aspects of the machine. What does this mean? That everything is, for example, you say processor, then there are so many processors doing the same work. So suppose if one processor fails, then the work will not suffer. There are so many hard disks storing the same data. So if suppose one of the hard disk fails, then the data will not get lost. So everything, there are duplicate things, means everything has got so many copies of the same thing which does the same work. So the duplication goes from CPU all way down to power supply and even cooling fans. Even cooling fans are also there duplicate. Suppose if one stops, then other will take the task. Fine. This makes the machine run continuously for years and years without any problem. This machine works for years and years without any problem. Now we will have a look at the operating system used here. So the operating system here used mostly is IBM, ZOS and Linux variants. Now we come to the server computer. Now, so what is server computer? I will explain you. Now server computers are the most powerful. Now first we will have a look at the image of server. Server computers are the most powerful computer that provides some computing or storage services to a large number of clients. Now I give you an example about internet. Now for example, if you are having a account in Facebook or Instagram, right, then you upload the pictures, videos, whatever, chat. Now that all thing will be saved in the server of Instagram or Facebook, right? But you can use the same data from your laptop, from your mobile phone, from your PC, right? So this concept that the common data is stored in one single computer is known as server concept. And in this diagram, this is server and these all are known as clients. Fine. Now we come to the operating system used for the server. So operating system used here are Unix and Linux, and also Microsoft Windows Server operating system is used. Now we come to the next category of computer, and that is high-end workstation. In simple words, if I say a computer which is used for designing high graphics games or animation is known as high-end workstation. Now there are various high graphics games coming in the market. Now you need a very good smartphone or a very good graphic card in your computer to play those games. But imagine, to design those games, still something higher is required. So this type of games are designed using the high-end workstations. Now high-end workstations are computers used for demanding scientific computing as well as multimedia applications like special effects in the movies, making animated movies, 3D modeling, computer aided design, that is CAD, computer aided manufacturing, that is CAM, etc. These requires very high graphic performance and effective management of the larger amount of resources available, that is processing power, memory, disk space, network bandwidth, everything. Here the operating system which is used are the same which was used in the server, Unix or Linux and Microsoft Windows operating system. Then we come to the next category of computer, that is personal computer. I don't need to explain you anything here. We all are using the personal computer at our house. Operating systems, we all know that we use different versions of Microsoft Windows, Windows 7, Windows XP, Windows 8, Windows 10, right? Besides that, OS X operating system is used on the Apple Mac series computers, and some of the people also use Linux operating system. Now we come to the next topic, that is smartphones and tablets. A smartphone is also a computer in its own this thing, am I right? It's a small computer only. And tablet PC are hybrid between the smartphones and the personal computer. Now these devices possesses unique challenges for the operating system designer. It's not that easy to design a smartphone, because in very small space so many things are to be adjusted. The whole thing which occupies the space in the monitor and CPU is fixed in one smartphone or tablet. So that's a very difficult thing. Now this device possesses unique challenges for the operating system designers because they have severe constraints on processing power, memory, space, energy usage. Why energy usage? Because higher energy usage would mean the battery would drain out faster, right? And the screen real estate, the screen size is quite small compared to the PC, and yet most of the facilities of PC are expected here. So they also have a quite different input methods. It could be numeric keypad method, that is QWERTY keypad port, navigation keys, or touch gestures, and on-screen keyboard on a touch screen, or even voice input. So these are the things. Then these characteristics demands complexity or it demands the completely different solutions. As a result, most mobile few years back used operating systems specially designed for them. However, with the increasing processing power and memory, specialized versions of PC operating systems have now become the most popular choice for smartphone and tablets. The example includes Google Android. Most of the smartphone uses this Android operating system. And another operating system which is used here is Apple iOS. These are the two operating systems. Even one more operating system which is used here is Microsoft Windows Phone, but it's not much used in the smartphone. Nokia had made a model available, Nokia Lumia, which was using Windows 10 or something like that way. Fine. Now we come to the last topic of today's video, and that is embedded system. Even phones are not the smallest computer on the planet. There are hundreds of millions of tiny computers embedded in places we cannot even imagine, from industrial machines to car engines, from TV set-top box and DVD players to washing machines and microwave oven. They are hidden everywhere. It's like a firmware. I had explained you the concept of firmware in one of the chapter, right? So embedded system, you can compare it with a firmware. These computers are programmed for special purpose tasks. They typically have little or no user interface. Why? Because they are like this way chip. Now how will you communicate with this chip? You cannot communicate, but that chip is fit inside all these devices. So the device will make the use of this thing. How will the device make the use? They get their input from a variety of sensors in the form of electrical signals, processes the input and sends the output in the form of electrical signals to the actuators that may activate some physical actions in the machine. They have extremely severe constraints on all resources, including processing power, memory, and most importantly is the price. So this is the image of a small chip embedded system. This is also the image of the same thing. Now, since there is hardly any scope of changing the programming once done in these tiny devices, and say for example something is programmed in this chip, then afterwards you cannot make any change. So the correctness of the software is really very important. But the software for this embedded system is developed on the PC, and it is very difficult to simulate the real-time behavior of the environment on the PC. So the testing the software for the correctness is very difficult, because you design the whole thing on the computer, but when you fix it in one of the device, how practically actually it will work is difficult to imagine. Embedded systems professionals use specialized tools for their work.